What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. VP Tactical here, and today we are doing a little trigger upgrade on my Palmetto State Armory Micro Dagger, or Dagger Micro C1. I personally am not a huge fan of a split shoe like this, or a hinged trigger, as some other people call them, and I've opted to upgrade to a flat trigger. And so this one I actually had hit up Tactical Pontoon, and he sold this to me, but you can buy these at just about any trigger manufacturer out there. They're usually going to sell just the trigger shoes themselves. And so we're going to go through this step by step, minus just the few initial pieces, which I did already. I took out the trigger pin and then also the rear trigger housing pin as well. And so if you like this content, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you want to help support my channel. I would certainly appreciate that. And so let's go ahead and dive in. And so like I mentioned, we've already got, obviously the gun is cleared safe, right? There's no magazine in here. There's no slide on it. So once you get your slide off, you're basically going to knock out this pin here for your trigger, this pin back here, and then everything else should pretty much come out. Now, this block right here, this metal piece, does actually pop up. So if you push up on the trigger, you'll see it actually sliding up there. And then now that gives me more wiggle room to actually get this out. And once you've got those out, you pull up on this piece back here, and then the whole assembly should just pop right out. Pretty easy. Now, if you look where the actual mechanism is here, this particular pin is actually holding in this trigger bar. So all we're going to do is on our trusty block here, without bending, should flip this the other way, without bending the trigger bar itself, we're going to go ahead and knock that pin out. So we're going to grab a really tiny punch, and that's pretty much what you need for this type of project, is a punch and then an Allen wrench. And so what we're going to do is line that bad boy up, and we're just going to drive that out, and it's that easy. And once we get it out, now note the orientation of the trigger, right? You want to make sure this is installed correctly. I know that seems self-explanatory, but just as a friendly reminder that we don't install your trigger backwards, or you get the idea. Anyway, we're just going to give this a quick wipe just to kind of clean things up just a little bit. And then when you get your new trigger, this particular style, instead of using a pin that you drive in, it actually uses a Allen head, which if you look down in that hole there, you'll see that the pin is all the way to the end. And so what we're going to want to do is back that out enough to where, I know my camera won't focus right now at the moment, but we're going to back that out just enough to where it's not going to grab and get in our way of installing the new one. And so what we're going to do here is go ahead and just slip that bad boy in. And once you get it in place, this may take you a few tries. And actually, shame on me, before I do this, I'm going to put just a little blue Loctite on this screw, so that way we don't have this thing coming out. So why would somebody want something like this? Well, maybe, like I said earlier, you despise the hinge trigger, which perfectly understandable. Like I said, I do too. I'm not fond of it. The one from PSA is okay. I've had other ones from Smith & Wesson that just absolutely ruined me to that type of trigger. And at any rate, that would be one option. Or maybe two, you are super budget conscious. Maybe that's a possibility, right? And you're like, well, I don't necessarily care to spend the extra money, or maybe I just don't have a ton of money to dump into the trigger system right now. Maybe you want just a little bit something different, right? And so this could be certainly a viable option for you. And it's an easy upgrade that you can knock out within a very short period of time. Now when you're doing this, you want to make sure that it's lined up. Now it's going to be a little tough. We're going to flip that back over. I got my blue Loctite on that screw. And we're going to see if this is going all the way through on the other end. It is. And we're rocking and rolling. And then all we're going to do is just to reverse the steps. I'm going to clean this up a little bit so we don't have all that blue Loctite everywhere. Because again, we don't want that getting into the trigger itself, or the safety. There we go. And that's it. We've just upgraded that split hinged shoe trigger to a one-piece excuse me, flat trigger, which honestly I personally prefer. To each their own. And what we're going to do is go ahead and just drop that trigger back in, and then that housing is just going to drop back in there. And push that block back down. And then what we're going to do is try and line this up, which it looks like I've actually got it pretty much spot on. You want your slide lock, remember that's got to go back in there, and that's going to wedge in on there. If you see that little cutout, that relief there on the side, it's going to go in there like that, and this spring is under tension. Right. We're going to adjust that back up just a little bit. Of course, now everything is shifted. This may take a little bit of playing with, so to speak. You're going to grab that big pin once you got things generally lined up. Let's see, oh, it's fighting us. So I'm going to bring that slide lock forward a bit. And you can see the trigger in this little difficulty. And sometimes it helps to kind of wiggle it. There we go. And everything snapped right in. Safety's not, or excuse me, slide lock's not coming out. And it looks like we're good. We're going to double check this here. And it's locked into place. Perfect. And then we're going to put our last pin in back here. I like to use a punch to finish this off. I'm going to try to make sure that it's even on both sides, not protruding for much further than the other. And put our slide back on. And that's it. Voila. Now we got a brand new trigger shoe on here. And we've upgraded not only the look, but also the feel of that trigger. Is this going to reduce the weight or anything else of that sort? No. But again, you know, I personally like these triggers that break at almost 90 degrees. They just feel better to me. And again, this is a simple, inexpensive, easy upgrade. If you didn't want to invest all that money into a brand new trigger system where you're having to replace all kinds of parts, whether it was a drop-in or whether it was an upgrade kit or whatever the case might be, this is potentially a viable option. You may be able to get something like this for 50, 60 bucks. Maybe somewhere a little bit higher, 70, 80, somewhere in that range, depending on if you get any fancy colors or anything else like that. This one was pretty basic, so I think it was around like 60 bucks, something of that sort. But it is, again, a quick, easy upgrade that you can do with just a punch and then a little Allen wrench or Torx bit, and ideally an Allen wrench, because that's what those use. And yeah, like I said, quick, easy upgrade for somebody who just wants to change maybe the shoe. Maybe they like the factory trigger and they're like, yeah, you know, it's pretty decent, but I hate the shoe. So I'm going to go ahead and just upgrade that component of it. Or maybe, again, you know, I'm just on a tight budget and I want another option. And this is something that you could do to, like I said, improve the look of the gun and then also the feel of it too. And actually, one thing you may want to do before you put this completely back together, you see where the trigger bar and the disconnect lie together. These are a friction surface here, so I would definitely suggest putting on a little bit of lube. That can help. In this case, I'm using a little bit of frog lube left over from one of my projects with tactical pontoon. And again, you don't need a ton, but it certainly helps. And you could always put a little on one of these fancy Q-tips here, and then get that around underneath the trigger bar mechanism there, and I'm just going to lift a little bit of that up, and then also push some of that in there. You don't want to go gung-ho. You don't want too much lube in there. Anyway, and that's it. And again, that would be something I would do before you put the whole thing back together, just so that way you're nice and lubed up, ready for the range. And that's it. All right. Well, hey, appreciate you folks stopping by. I know we're going to get that 5.7 out to the range here very soon, so stay tuned for that. Be safe, stay vigilant, and yeah. Appreciate love and support. Hit that like and subscribe button. Take care.